Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing 2024 New York Pro Nick Walker and 1994 German Grand Prix Dorian Yates. These are very good versions of themselves, however, I would say that both have been better. Now, it should be interesting to see how these two stack up against each other, as Nick has a lot of traits that are reminiscent of Dorian. Neither had the best genetics for shape or structure, however, their relentless work ethic and ability to lock in and get peeled to the bone are commendable to say the least. Nick exhibits a similar grainy quality to his conditioning as well, and has one of the best backs out there today, which should make this comparison rather competitive. Now, before the video does start, a like and sub would be much appreciated as it helps out the channel tremendously. Also, if you guys are enjoying these video footage comparisons, please let me know down below, and do give me some constructive feedback as well. Anyways, with that all being said, let's get into this video. The first pose of this comparison, the front double, may have you thinking one of two things. One, that Nick utterly destroys Dorian in the arms, or two, that Dorian's video quality is complete trash. For the latter, I do apologize for the footage not being the best, as unfortunately, a lot of footage from the 90s and early 2000s weren't that clear at all. This was the clearest footage of Dorian that I could find that had all the necessary poses at the same angle, which goes to show you how poorly documented the best era of bodybuilding was. Anyways, Dorian can't really stand a chance against Nick's peaked biceps and massive guns, however he does have a more aesthetic torso, superior lats, and very solid quads. Dorian was never really known for having the best quad sweep out there, however I'd say that from what I can see, he would win the lower body due to having better quads and better calves. That being said, Nick isn't all that bad against Dorian in the quads, has good calves of his own, and as unaesthetic as he is upstairs, he beats Dorian overall. I'd give him this pose, however Dorian's bicep, if it wasn't torn, would definitely look a lot better and he might even have a chance to win the pose. The front lat spread is a Dorian Yates pose all day. Unlike the last pose where there was a necessary breakdown to explain why Nick won the pose, here it should be clear as day as to why Dorian wins. He has better lats, a tighter, smaller midsection, and great overall conditioning. Nick does have good individual body parts like great arms, a solid chest, rather nicely posed and separated quads, and surprisingly good lats. However, his midsection completely ruins his flow. While he may be competitive in certain areas, Dorian's flow, posing execution, and better suited structure all tend to sway me in favor of him winning. There really isn't much else to be said, as Nick probably has the worst front lat spread today, probably one of the worst front lat spreads of all time for a top Olympian, that is, while Dorian has the best front lat spread arguably of all time. The side chest is definitely a lot closer of a pose than the last two have been. Nick immediately stands out to me, specifically for his side leg, which appears larger in the hamstrings as he pushes it up against his far leg more and bends down further, creating a more filled out look. Dorian looks decent in the side leg, definitely not his best area, however he does have good separation and size. Upper bodies are very close though, however I'm drawn to Dorian for his old school presentation, thick chest, grainy delt and arm, and expanded rib cage. Nick might not be as full in the chest, however his rear delt is rounder, and his arm is objectively better from a size standpoint. Nick seems to have more dense muscle mass overall, however his midsection really stands out when comparing him to Dorian. It appears less cinched in, while Dorian keeps everything tight and controlled. While my eyes are drawn to Dorian, and Nick may win this one due to his superior leg presentation and comparable size upstairs. So I would go with Nick, however Dorian has, he has that really nice old school look to him, so he could win this one as well. The back poses are going to be very cool to see, as Nick should be able to put up a very solid fight. Looking at the two, it is clear that Nick is slightly better in the lower body, as he presents his leg to showcase more width. This difference in presentation is what will cost Dorian the win downstairs, as apart from that, he has great hamstrings, massive calves, and unfortunately we can't really see the glutes, however I'm sure they're conditioned. The backs themselves are definitely not close though, as Dorian wins almost every area apart from maybe width. That being said, the difference in camera angles can influence the width of their lats, so take this pose and the upcoming rear lat spread with a grain of salt. Nick is very impressive though in the lats, has good overall separation, and wins the delts and arms convincingly. However, the back itself is a take-home area for Dorian. While Nick does win the limbs, I feel like Dorian's dominance in the back, coupled with him not losing the lower body by much, would give him an edge in the overall pose, and therefore I would have him winning. The rear lat spread is definitely more of a convincing win for Dorian than the last pose was, as he has so much thickness and detail in the back, it's just insane, especially in the traps and lower lats, and the hamstrings and glutes show solid detail and size. Sure, he still loses in the outer quad sweep width and doesn't mop the floor in sheer width of the lats. However, like I said, the camera angle can play a role in that, and also Nick can't compete in the density, thickness, and depth of the back itself. The lower bodies are close, no doubt. However, Dorian's ridiculous back and imposing total package are definitely enough to win in my book. Here's the side tricep, a pose which both are actually very good in. Unfortunately, Dorian doesn't hit the pose with his trailing calf, which makes it a bit underwhelming in my opinion. In contrast, Nick looks phenomenal executing the pose near perfectly. I like how he tilts his upper body to showcase more width, and he also objectively has the better, fuller tricep. I'd say that against this variation of Dorian, Nick handily wins the lower body, as Dorian does a terrible job of displaying the true potential of his hamstring sweep. While both are similarly conditioned in the lower bodies, best seen in the quad ham tie-in, Nick looks twice as thick, and I even prefer Nick's upper body as his midsection is ripped and shredded, and the way he poses creates an illusion of a smaller midsection. Dorian does have a good chest, solid arm, tight midsection, and a decent side leg. However, Nick outdoes him in posing and in the tricep itself, the midsection, and the side leg, so I would go with Nick. The ab and thigh, like the front lat spread, is a take-home pose for Dorian. I feel like I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll keep on saying it, but Nick's larger waist and more split abs really make what used to be a good pose into a pretty bad one. Nick doesn't showcase his trademark deep cuts in the abs, and his wider obliques make the pose look more fridge-esque than it ever did before. He does have very solid quad separation and poses them to highlight the inner thigh, creating an illusion of more size. But that all being said, Dorian's tiny waist, impressive flared lats, and solid quads of his own all make for a very dominant ab and thigh pose against Nick. If Nick had his usual ab cuts and a trimmer waistline, I'd definitely be more inclined to overlook his lagging quads. As it is though, all of his flaws seem very apparent, while in contrast, Dorian has few if no flaws at all. The most muscular was not a mandatory pose for Dorian back in the day, however, he looks pretty good nonetheless. Round shoulders, thick and strided chest, and conditioned arms. He also showcases some great quad separation and size, and has razor-sharp detail in the midsection. Upper body-wise, Nick absolutely steamrolls Dorian though, presenting cannonball delts, massive arms, and a thick chest as well. Sure, his midsection isn't as pretty, however, the freak factor that he has is a little too much in my opinion. His quads even appear half decent as well, and I feel like his upper body hides the flaws that he may have. Combine all that with great conditioning and detail as well, and it makes for a great, freaky, very wow factor-esque most muscular. I'd definitely go with Nick here, however, Dorian is rather impressive on his own as well, but not as impressive as Nick in my opinion. Alright guys, that's it for this video. In summary, I had Dorian winning this one, although the poses won were a tie. That's because Dorian was extremely dominant in the back, and won poses more convincingly than the poses won by Nick. Poses like the side chest and tricep were definitely debatable, and the latter, if hit properly by Dorian, would have been much more of a toss-up. All in all, Nick did put up a very solid fight, however, keep in mind that this isn't the best version of Dorian ever. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you thought of it in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one, and like always, thanks for watching.